Metal Driver here, and today I am looking at another McFarlane Toys figure. This time it is the McFarlane Collector's Edition First Appearance Superman from Action Comics #1. And I gotta say, this packaging looks really nice. It looks like an upgraded version of their standard packaging. It's got this nice silver lettering on the side. I like that Superman 85 logo at the bottom. And on the back we get this nice big image of Action Comics #1. So this is pretty exciting. I didn't know if I was gonna pick this up or not. I didn't pre-order it. But I did see this at my local GameStop, and it looked really good in person, so I thought, why not? I need another Superman in my collection. But before we go any further, you fine folks have been acknowledged. And with all that being said, let's go ahead and open this up and take a closer look at Superman. And here we have the last son of Krypton out of the packaging. We see all the details on the figure, and as I said, this is his first appearance attire. Now, the cover of Action Comics has him with red boots, but in the actual comic, his boots and his legs are all blue. But before we continue looking at the figure, let's look at the accessories that he comes with. So this figure comes with this stand for the card that we get with all the McFarlane toy figures. This stand is unique to this collector's series, and the stand looks pretty good. Take a closer look at that. So it's neat. It's got the DC logo, some sculpting here. So not bad looking at all. And then looking at the card, this is the cover of Action Comics #1. We get the McFarlane Collector's Edition in silver right here. And then on the back, we get the data file that we see with all the McFarlane toy figures. This one has this silver design, so it looks sleeker, a little bit nicer. We also get this plastic chain that wraps around, so you can put this around Superman, have him breaking these chains in a nice cool looking pose. The sculpting on the chain looks nice. It's just one solid color, there's no dry brushing. And then I don't know if these attach on the side, perhaps. Or I mean on the back, not the side. Well, it doesn't really attach, but you can just kind of plug it in and it's fine. We get this DC figure stand that we get with all the DC figures, all the McFarlane toy figures. This, though, has a silver logo. They're usually just black, so that is different. And then we get this clear flight stand with the DC logo. Here is the actual flight stick, or the piece where you hold the figure up. So that is pretty neat. So it's cool to have that. What's not cool is that we don't get any extra hands with this Superman. So I'm gonna be honest, if I had to pick and choose between this flight stand or a set of extra hands, I would go with the hands. It sucks only having one gripping hand and one fisted hand. I would have loved it to have two fisted hands, two gripping hands, or better yet, two flight hands. So I know we don't always get extra hands with McFarlane toy figures, but with this Superman, since it's a collector's edition, I think it should have gotten those hands, and it would have been better than a flight stand. Again, that's just me. Maybe I'm the only one in that boat. Then look at the head sculpt. It looks okay right off the bat. I'm not completely in love with it, but I don't hate it. I think it's a nice McFarlane representation of that first appearance Superman, that old school style with the chiseled face and the squinted eyes. But perhaps maybe it's a little too chiseled, because when I look back at the DC Direct version, I think that one had a great head sculpt. So maybe McFarlane slightly overdid it with the wrinkles on the cheeks. Again, it's not bad, but I don't think it's the best representation of this Superman. But for what it is, it's not something I hate, and I'll live with it. I think it's fine. Now, the paint looks really good. The eyes, or the little bit of the eyes that you see, are painted really well. The lips are painted well. I do like the sculpting of the hair. There aren't any highlights in there. It's just a solid black. The eyebrows look good. Kind of does remind me of an MCU Hulk. But you know, this will probably grow on me a little bit more. But I will say, I do think the head is a little bit situated low on this figure. Probably could have benefited from being just slightly higher on the neck. Then look at the body. It is a big, bulky Superman body, which I would say this is not accurate to that first appearance Superman. Again, the DC Direct one, I think they nailed it many years ago with that Superman. Now, unfortunately, I do not have it. I never owned it, but I've seen images of that. And based on what I've seen, I think that's a good interpretation of a figure that's representing its comic book counterpart. This one, though, I think it's a little bit too bulky. The Superman shield logo looks nice. This is that first version. I think the paint looks really good, and there's nothing sloppy or mispainted. Could have probably used an extra coat of yellow. But aside from that, I can't complain about the shield. It's got some nice sculpted arms. Pretty sure these arms are reused. In fact, I think they are. Same thing with this upper body. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is probably, I think, the Hush body, or the body that was used with that Rebirth Superman. I don't have either of those, unfortunately. Good sculpt on the cape. Looks nice. I would prefer Softgoods cape, but that's something that I could easily customize, or if I don't want to make my own, I could always buy one online. Tons of those on eBay. Red trunks look fine. A little bit of fuzzy work here on the yellow from the belt, but aside from that, looks good. See a gripping hand here, fisted hand here. So again, it would have been nice to have matching hands, extra hands. That would have been great. Then look at the legs, sculpted pretty well for the most part, but I do believe, again, I don't have that Rebirth Superman. This looks like the Rebirth legs, so no new parts there. And then he's got all blue on his boots. Now there is a variant with the red boots and the red outline around the shield. Hopefully I can find that and get my hands on that, because that actually looks really nice. But so far from what I'm seeing here, not a perfect depiction of the first appearance Superman, but I don't hate it. Now let's see how the articulation looks. Hopefully that'll make me like it even more. Alright, the head goes that high up and that far down, so I do believe that's a double ball joint there. Can turn side to side and tilt very well. Shoulder goes that high up, rotates all the way around. There is a butterfly joint in there, a bit stiff on mine. Let's see how it is on this one. It's a little better. There is a bicep swivel. It's a bit stiff. Double jointed elbows. There we go. So that is a really good range there. The hand can rotate, and there's also a hinge. He's got a ball joint at the diaphragm, so he doesn't really go that far forward. He does go that far back. He can pivot, and then there's a ball joint at the waist, so he can twist, crunch a little bit further forward, so not the best range going forward, but much better going back. The legs go that far out. They go that high up. There isn't a thigh cut, but there's usually rotation here in the inner thigh. But they tend to be a little bit on the stiff side. He's got double jointed knees. Rotation here at the ankle. Ankle has a hinge, goes up and that far down. There is ankle pivot and toe articulation. Now, as I said, I do not have the DC Direct version of First Appearance Superman, and unfortunately I do not have that many Superman by McFarlane Toys, but what I do have is the first one that McFarlane Toys did, that is Action Comics 1000 Superman, and Henry Cavill's Superman. Alright, so this figure is not perfect. There are some issues that I have. One of them being the body I think is a little bit too bulky for this version of Superman. Now, there's nothing wrong with the body itself. I just think this is a little too big and ripped for first appearance Superman. Now, I'm willing to let it slide because I did used to collect DCUC figures back in the day, and pretty much all the superhero figures had the same body mold. But the one complaint that I do have that I think is more legitimate is the fact that we don't get any interchangeable hands with this. Now, as cool as this flight stand looks, with the Superman pose like this, I would have preferred if that was skipped. Instead, we got 2 fisted hands, 2 gripping hands, and 2 flight hands. Now, with those complaints aside, I don't have too many Supermans in my collection from McFarlane Toys, and I especially don't have a single first appearance one, so despite the flaws, I mostly like this figure, so I'm pretty content with what I have here. Now, that variant version, I think it's a platinum version, that one looks a little bit better. That one looks better than this. That one does look better than this. So hopefully I can find that. But if you are looking for a first appearance Superman that looks exactly like how he does in the comics, then this one probably might be a disappointment. But if you're okay with the body, then yeah, I think it's a solid pickup and will look great alongside your different Supermans with the different costumes. And you know what else would be great? If you hit that like button and subscribe. I haven't done too many McFarlane reviews this past year, but I'm looking to change that, so hopefully I get enough engagement with this video, and that'll tell me that you guys want to see more McFarlane toy reviews. So in the meantime, click on the card at the end of the video, and I'll see you next time.